Ben Boakye, is this a matter of ECG not having money? And that's why we're being plunged into darkness and officials are playing the ostrich. This is not Dumsor. What is it?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Samson. I think at this point, I mean, everybody see the light go off once in a while in their communities. Others are punished more than others because there isn't an official way of delivering a fair approach to this load management that we're seeing. And the fact of the matter is that we don't have enough generation. And a couple of factors account for that. We have plants that are on maintenance. Even before that, the gas at this point are almost at peak. So we need at all times some amount of liquids to be able to meet the demand. And that also become a problem because we don't have the cash flow to be able to do that. And I also agree that there are some of these load shedding that are localized. Of course, transformers may go off at some point. But the big reality is that if you're shedding 500, sometimes 600, sometimes 400 megawatts of load, which is from generation, you cannot attribute that to localized outages. It is significant enough for you to communicate that properly and manage it so that people can plan their lives. Because 600 megawatt out of this economy is significant, it's huge.
What's our total consumption?
It's between 3,600, 3,700 sometimes megawatts. So, yes, on the average, you're looking at about 3,500 megawatts of power. So if you take 600 megawatts of that demand off, it is quite significant. It impacts the entire economy. And therefore, enabling people to plan then becomes extremely important. And so that has been the challenge that we're having to grapple with.
You said we don't have enough generation.
Yes, so a couple of factors.
I need you to explain that in the face of what we have been told repeatedly since this regime assumed the reins of government power, that the NDC brought in just too much power and there is excess we don't need and we are paying for. What does that mean? We don't generate enough and yet we have excess.
Well, so when you put the installed capacity in Ghana together, you're in excess of 5,000 megawatts. But installed capacity is different from available, dependable capacity. I mean, you can talk about even T3 that has installed. It's been there for more than a decade. It cannot give you a kilowatt of power. So the fact that it's installed doesn't mean that you can get power out of it. So we have a lot of those power plants that cannot give us power. There are some of the installed generation like KTTP that are expensive to run because one is a single cycle plant and also most times you have to give it liquid fuel to run. So it may be there. If you don't have the extra money to buy fuel to be able to run it, you cannot run it. And then also you have installed generation capacity that may be going on maintenance or may have been broken down. Like we have a unit at TAPCO down, we have a unit at TICO down. They are not available even though they are installed, so you can't get power out of them. We have a Mary 250. It's been down for the past 2 years, because we say we want to relocate, we want to do this, and we packed it, essentially. So it is installed, but it's not available to be used. So at all times, you need to be able to give a clearer picture of what dependable capacity we have. And Greco is able to do that. They're able to give you plants that are available, plants that can generate power.
If we have installed capacity of in excess of 5,000 megawatts, and all we need, averagely, is 3,500, and yet we are in darkness, is it a question of incompetence or cash?
I would say a mixture of them. I mean, if you drill down to the cash situation, for example, ECG's liabilities every month, how much they're supposed to raise to be able to meet, the cash flow requirement of the sector is about 1.9 to 2 billion cedis every month. And they are averagely doing about 800. The peak they've done is about 1 billion and 22 all right? So you see the gap. So we need about $1 billion more to be able to meet the needs of the industry. So power that has been handed over to ECG to go and sell and collect that revenue so that they can share to those who are generating, those who are buying fuel, those who are transmitting, and anybody else within the chain is short by $1 billion every month. All right? So if you are running that deficit, then you're always playing catch up. You're trying to see who do I address quickly so that I can get the power running. Who is making noise and whose generator is threatening. Let me go and pay some money so that, I avert, a deficit in generation. So that catch-up then has not been working. And therefore, we always have to rely on the budget. We need government to now intervene to say that if ECG is not able to collect enough revenue, then I have to come in and pay some of it. As to the extent that now, on the average, every month, Ghana has to cough 250 million Ghana cedis to be able to take part of the under recoveries that are happening in this space. Beyond that, also, government essentially is paying for gas, all right? Because we have contracted ENI and other upstream producers, and it's take or pay. So they produce, the gas is used to generate electricity, is sold to ECG and everybody else. We can't recover the money, so government has to pay for it. So the bill always comes to the table of government, for government to pay. And sometimes the government also struggles.
So now
to raise the money
lives and livelihoods are threatened. Will people's expectations be met? They simply want their lights on. They have the money. They want the lights on. It's not that they can't afford to pay their bills. They are paying for the bill. They are paying the bills anyway.
I think those of us in the space, what really worries us is not just keeping the light on. All right, but at what cost are you keeping the light on? Like I indicated, if we keep the light on and you are creating a deficit of $1 billion every month, all right, and government says, okay, I'm going to take up that bill and sacrifice education, sacrifice health infrastructure, sacrifice the roads, and go and give that to ECG to be able to meet it. That's not management of our energy sector. And that is what we have been doing. We have been sacrificing the budget of Ghana to be able to meet these inefficiencies that sometimes are deliberately created, all right, and then undermining development of the country just because of the energy sector problems. So there's a bigger picture to it that we need to make sure that we are not, because it is government and government has money, sacrificing everything else just to keep the light on and pretend to make people happy. And that for me is a bigger problem that we have to deal with at this point. So how do we get to that long-term situation where we have a power system everywhere in the world? Power is business, all right? It is money.
Yeah.
And people sell power, they're able to make money, government does not intervene, and the system runs.
The economy literally runs on the fuel of power.
Absolutely. So we need to get to that situation where, we have a power system that runs, without government intervention and pumping in these billions every year just to make the people happy.
So, can I hear you from where you sit, knowing all that you know? What's the way out?
I think the way out is
because,
really,
as I understand, this is bound to get worse.
So, if government buys fuel today, we can have the power running. You can have the lights on. But it's not sustainable for government to be doing that. It's not sustainable for us to be sacrificing the budget to be paying for fuel that even if we were going to give the fuel to ECG and be guaranteed that they will sell the power and recover the money, it wouldn't be a problem. It would be a one-off expenditure. But it's become a recurrent expenditure. That government knows that you are throwing money at these entities and nothing will come out of it. All right? And that is a big drain. And for us, we need to revisit that conversation about bringing the private sector investment and allowing the regulators to regulate it. And we have a system where we have PURC, we have Energy Commission, who are supposed to be regulating the space. And what they are doing is regulating state entities that are so recalcitrant. And they're essentially just watching them do anything. And they can't regulate them. The way to make regulation work is to bring in the private sector, and the state regulates them, all right, to make sure that they are efficient, they are delivering value for the people. And you can't regulate yourself. And essentially, that's what we are
Tell us again,
to be doing.
Who is causing the debt that is getting me sleep in the darkness even when I have bought power?
I mean, it's ECG. ECG is not able to collect its revenue, and NETCO as well. I mean, the distribution companies.
Where's the debt from?
They can't collect revenues. So if you track...
I don't understand. Why can't they collect?
So
they are selling power. We are buying the power. So what is it?
So, I mean, that's a bigger question for them to answer. And really, people steal power. And that's why some of us have criticized what they are doing and, question it as just optics, going to government facilities to go and disconnect them when those are bills you can actually trace and The government is not running away to anywhere. You can go to government and say, you owe me, negotiate and get government to pay you. You don't go threatening the one you know, and the over 30% that you cannot account for. The technical and commercial losses of ECG is about 30%. What that simply means is that if you give them 2 billion worth of energy every month, they cannot account for almost 600 million. That goes to waste. And the government money you are chasing is not up to that money. Beyond that, also, government is paying every month 250 million for some of your suppliers in the space. So the hard work of going after those who are stealing power, we are not seeing traction in there. The inefficiencies even within the ECGs that we are not seeing traction how they're dealing with that.
Help
where he says he is getting to appreciate the issues. But I think what we have to really process is that the energy sector problems are hurting the economy. And the earlier politically we give up, the energy sector and allow it to run as business, the better it will be for all of us.
What will it mean to
Doc
allow
was
it
talking
to
about lack
run
of
as
investment.
business?
I mean, government has been investing in ECG. When we lost the PDS program, government invested more than 700 million. The investor was supposed to do 500 million to reduce the losses from 23 to about 18. We invested over 700 million and we jumped the losses to 30. All right? So it means that government throws money in and the waste deepens. So we need to address that critical problem of allowing the energy sector to run as business.
Yes, what do you mean by that?
So the problem is not just ECG. It's a whole political economy issue around it. I mean, the procurement around it is not only ECG workers or management who is controlling it. There are politicians, ministers, those you may not even know, who are controlling procurement in the space and actually siphoning the resources that could actually retool the system, procure more efficient systems that work. There are meters that don't work, but they have been procured, they've been paid. All right, there are transformers that will be procured, they will not work. And then we are paid for it, and the state keeps paying. We need to give up that.
Private investors will mean we are going to pay more for electricity.
It doesn't mean necessarily that we're going to pay more. That's why there's a regulator.
That is for certain, isn't it?
The regulator, the way you do it, you can't, government has proven that it cannot regulate itself. PRC is failing. I mean, we've had the banter between PRC and ECG. And that is really what it is. They cannot regulate ECG because ECG boss was appointed by the same president. And they all feel equal. And therefore, they cannot be regulated. That's why the cash waterfall mechanism says, pull every money into a pot and let's share.
If government cannot absorb a certain amount that ECG requires or in the power sector is required, what's the use of government anyway?
No,
they are paying their taxes and they are buying the power.
Well, question, why should government be paying for somebody's electricity? I have consumed electricity, I should pay for it. I'm stealing power, and somebody who is supposed to make sure I don't steal power is blaming people who are stealing and say, go and
what's the state's duty and responsibility to me as a citizen? To just give everything to private hands and watch? Then what's the use of a government?
It's as good as asking why is the state not selling water and private people selling the water, all right? The state has power to regulate everybody and make sure that we are all in line. If you are selling power, you are selling water, you are selling food, you are supposed to pay taxes.
Then we privatize the government.
We are not privatizing government. The government assuming its rightful responsibility and ensuring that they can control everybody, regardless of whether it's your own money or is the state's money. And the state has that power, and the law gives the state the power to manage and regulate everybody. And I think if the state itself has failed to do the business side of things, it has to give up that role and allow the private sector to come in so that they can properly regulate the sector. And I think that is a major, major problem. And if we don't pay attention to it, I mean, Doc was talking about the export challenges that we do have. And that for me is also another big area for us to look at. Because once you send the signals that you are not reliable, then you lose the market. Yeah. The only competitive advantage we have at this point on the export market is reliability. Nigeria is selling around 6 cents per kilowatt hour. And we are selling over 10 cents per kilowatt hour. But because we are reliable, they prefer Ghana's power.
Oh, I see.
So now, if Nigeria improves reliability, there's no market for Ghana.
And we lose.
All right? And we lose.
So we can't even do business.
We can't do business. So there's that urgency for us to improve not just reliability, but cost competitiveness and efficiency.
What else?
For us to keep the export market.
Does the state not fail at? That's the issue. You have this. It looks like buy and sell, and you are failing at it. Yeah. So maybe in a minute your final words about whether you think it is necessary to have a timetable now, regardless of what Richard just said, that somewhat it's being managed. Should there be a timetable? Yes, Ben, start.
No, for me, we have been in this space at some point, even 50 megawatt, we have demanded timetable. So for 300, 500 megawatt, it would be hypocritical for me to say that. The most importantly, if there's no timetable, what happens is that everybody else is at the discretion of gridco operators. So they sit in the control room like here, and they can see all the feeders in the country, and they have fun. This one goes off because I don't have enough. That one goes off. So they can decide that one place will go off multiple times because there's no plan for it. And that's what is happening. So gridco decides who should go off to save the grid.
That's disrespecting the
because
customer.
Because if they don't take you off, the entire system collapses, and they have to take somebody off.
Okay.
So we need to have
in your vocabulary, this is not Dumsor.
There's the problem. Dumsor, like once the light goes off and come on, I don't think we should be
Thank you very much.
haggling about it.